I've got my notes on this because this is going to be a big, hot, juicy topic. Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell Smith, and today we are talking about why men's mental health is garbage. Seriously, men's mental health is a concern, and we're going to talk about why. Now, it's important to note, this is not, and I will not encourage, nor will I facilitate, oppression Olympics. It's not about who has it worse, men, women, trans folks, non-binary folks. We are simply talking about the phenomenon that men have very poor mental health outcomes. And everything we're going to talk about, everything that makes men's mental health garbage, comes down to two words: normal culture, and what we accept as normal culture. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for more conversations on mental health, photography, business, life. I think instead of the term normal culture, I'm going to refer to common culture, because what we accept as common and what gets practiced among a group of people is what's harming men and harming our mental health. Now, common culture hurts us, and I'm going to say us because this is for the men today, more so than anything else. Common culture hurts us in a few ways. It harms us in how we navigate mental health on our own. It harms us in terms of how and when we navigate it with others, which I'll give you a hint, rarely. And it harms us, we're harmed in terms of who talks about mental health, when they talk about it, and how they talk about it. So we have this big, ugly mess from every direction, and we're going to look at it from a bunch of different directions. Why men's mental health sucks. First, let me start with the concept of common culture, what that means, and how it's affecting us. Common culture here refers to a set of beliefs, behaviors, and practices among a like group of people. Here, I'm referring to men, and largely men across the board. For men, we have a few hallmarks in our common culture that affects our mental health. I'm going to give you a hint now. A lot of these hallmarks come from times before us and come from people before us. But humans were also pretty slow to change. Change takes time, and that's why so much of history still affects us today. We come from a time where we don't talk about feelings, because talking about feelings was reserved for women. Just like there were concepts or notions that women wore high heels, women wore lipstick, and nobody else. We also come from a time where conversation and discussing emotions and feelings, and dare I say it, even mental health, was for women. That's not for us, that's for them. We come from a time where your emotions, feeling them or expressing them, could be exploited, could be used against you. We come from a time, and I hope you're already seeing the pattern here, now I'm going back thousands of years, where as men we can be a little bit slower to change, where new ideas could threaten our survival as a species. Here, men were charged with the success and the continuation of a group of people because they had to hunt, they had to fight. So we couldn't always trust new ideas, new concepts, because that may harm our species. We tend to dismiss new ideas, like the idea that your brain can be diseased, disordered, or have an alternate or a different way of functioning and cause mental health problems. We come from cultures and times where other things were more important than our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. Like the concept of duty, like the concept of work, like the concept of service to others coming above self, including our own mental health. We come from times and places where it's beneficial to not talk about it, to not disturb the peace, to not rock the boat, to not disturb anyone. And to, bring that all together, we come from men, we all come from men, we have to come from people. We come from men, we come from families, we come from cultures and other systems where these beliefs were upheld, where we don't do these things, we don't say these things, we don't rock the boat, we don't talk about mental health, because none of the men who came before us have. So why should we be different? Another crucial part, I think, that wraps it all together, where men's mental health problems come from, and our struggles and our poor mental health outcomes, comes from socialization. So socialization is a fancy term for how we interact with others, and how we learn to interact from others. Usually when we talk about socialization, it starts in childhood. We look at how do kids learn about the world, how do they learn to exist from their parents and from their peers and from other family members. That's socialization. And then how we get socialized, how we learn to navigate the world and the people around us, comes from what we deem common behaviors, acceptable behaviors. With men, it is not a normal part of our culture because we are not socialized, we are not raised or see others talking about their feelings or talking about their mental health. That's not seen as normal. So just like some people in the world observe Christmas and therefore, or do not observe Hanukkah because they identify as Christian, there are Jewish people who observe Hanukkah but do not observe Christmas because they're Jewish and not Christian. So for Jewish individuals and families, Hanukkah is part of common culture. That's normal for them. And Christmas is not normal. It's not common. Likewise, for Christians, Christmas is normal. It is common. Hanukkah is not. That's just to show what common culture can look like and what that can mean. For men, it is not part of our common culture to be talking about our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, and our mental health. I'm going to give you a hint now. This is going to be at the end of the video, but that is the remedy, is to have more conversations about mental health. But back to the problem. We also have modern day factors that harm men's mental health. A lot of this has been history and historical, but there's a lot of nonsense today that is also impeding and slowing down men's mental health from improving as a collective whole and as individuals. First, we have unhelpful beliefs. We still don't like to talk about it. We shut down conversations about it. We don't have regular or thoughtful check-ins with our friends. Men generally, and this was an interesting body of research to read, also have beliefs that harmful coping mechanisms aren't as harmful as they can actually be. Men being more likely, for example, to use drugs and alcohol to handle their mental health, which is rarely actually terribly helpful. It's definitely a survival strategy. And please note, on this channel, we believe that all behaviors are adaptive behaviors, and all adaptive behaviors are good until we learn better. But drugs and alcohol can have a negative effect on our mental health, and we tend to think that it's helpful when it's not as really as helpful, and it could actually be harmful. We also have modern beliefs that we can't or we shouldn't go to professionals and seek professional support, which is absolute nonsense. And then finally, we have problems where when we do go to professionals, they don't always help and they don't know how to help. Part of this problem now, especially that moves beyond men and moves to, I'm going to say institutions like healthcare, like education, like the workplace, part of the problem is that they don't address men's mental health. And when they try to address men's mental health, they try to apply blanket strategies that they think work for everybody. We have research that shows doctors commonly downplay men's mental health and their symptoms. So they're more likely to attribute it to everyday life, to everyday stress, or to a biochemical cause, and not address the fact that men are struggling with mental health. There's also not as much education about what we've talked about today, men's common culture, things that are common to men that maybe aren't common to women. So for example, my therapist just assumed that I was emotionally aware, but getting in touch with my emotions was a lot harder in the beginning of my therapy journey because I wasn't raised to get in touch with my emotions and to feel them. That wasn't common for men, whereas that may have been a little more common for women. So we have this multi-part problem where we don't seek help, and then when we do seek help, it's either not there because there's a complete lack of mental health supports, or the professionals we go to often downplay what we're experiencing. All of this leads just to our situation now where men's mental health sucks. And this is why I think the leading remedy is for us guys to be talking about it. So, a few remedies to help tackle this. 1, if you see a panel event on mental health, Most panels are all women. Ask to be a panelist if you're a guy, if you identify as a man. Ask them to find a man to join the panel and get more guys involved. Even if they're not on the panel or they're not speaking, but they could be a host, they could be an MC, they could be a prominent figure. Number 2, take it seriously and encourage others to take it seriously. I do have another video, and I'll link it somewhere here, where I talk about all the different ways that mental health can affect people, and we address why is mental health important. If you're not sure how to take it seriously or how it could be affecting someone, go watch that video and you may be surprised. And then number 3, the most actionable tip that anyone can implement: talk about it. And talking about it sounds daunting. I actually have a 1-question prompt you can use to have more conversations about mental health. Actually, it's a 2-part question. I love to, and I've normalized with my friends, I always ask them, how are you? No, actually, how are you? Make it an intentional part of conversation, because I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a real quick second. I think we have a real wicked problem with asking people, how are you, without actually wanting to know how are they. Let's just normalize that question and fully inhabiting that question. So that's why I like to especially slow down the second part and ask, how are you? No, actually, how are you? Because having more conversations normalizes it. Having more conversations changes common culture. Having more conversations about mental health changes our beliefs and our behaviors around this. And I think that's one of the big remedies that we can use to tackle men's mental health. Comment and let me know, what do you think other remedies could be to men's mental health struggles and maybe some of the poorer health outcomes that come with men's mental health? As always, make sure to like and subscribe for all things mental health, photography, business, art, life, that jazz. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.